Hi, everybody. I think we'll get started here so we can get some of this information covered. My name is Chris Green. I'm the Executive Director of the Animal Law and Policy Program here at the Law School. And we're very happy to have Dr. Greger giving of his time and being with us here today. Dr. Greger is a physician, a best-selling author, and a globe-trotting lecturer on nutrition, food safety, and public health issues. Specializing in clinical nutrition, he currently serves as the Public Health Director of the Humane Society of the United States. As part of this coming week's World Food Day events, today Dr. Greger will be discussing his latest book, How Not to Die, which became an instant New York Times bestseller. As with all of his materials, Dr. Greger is donating 100% of the book's proceeds to charity. Dr. Greger has made spreading the word about healthy, plant-based nutrition his life's work. By my count, today will be the 81st lecture Dr. Greger has given on this subject just this year, with another dozen to come, I think. He truly is sacrificing his life to help save yours. Indeed, I gave a copy of How Not to Die to my own father after he suffered a mild heart attack last year due to being brought up on a British diet. After following the book's tenets, last month my dad's total cholesterol count was down to 90, something that astounded his physicians. Then, when a close friend also had a recent heart attack, I gave him a copy of How Not to Die the very next day. After reading it cover to cover that weekend, my buddy became quote-unquote vegan for life, and now, just 4 months later, he's already lost 40 pounds and refers to Dr. Greger as the man who saved his life. I personally cannot thank Dr. Greger enough for helping keep the people I care about around as long as possible, and hopefully today you will all take what he has to say to heart, in this case, quite literally. Without further ado, Dr. Greger.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Allow me to begin on a personal note. This is a picture of me taken around the time that my grandmother was diagnosed with end-stage heart disease and sent home to die. She already had so many bypass surgeries, basically run out of plumbing at some point, confined to a wheelchair, crushing chest pain. Her life was over at age 65. Then she heard about this guy, Nathan Pritikin, one of our early lifestyle medicine pioneers. And what happened next is actually chronicled in Pritikin's biography. My grandma was one of the death's door people. Frances Greger, my grandmother, arrived at one of Pritikin's early sessions in a wheelchair. Mrs. Greger had heart disease, angina, claudication, her condition so bad she could no longer walk without great pain in her chest and legs. Within 3 weeks, though, she's not only out of her wheelchair, she was walking 10 miles a day. There's a picture of my grandma at her grandson's wedding. 15 years after doctors had abandoned her to die, she was given her medical death sentence at age 65. Thanks to a healthy diet, she was able to enjoy another 31 years on this planet till age 96 to enjoy her 6 grandkids, including me. That's why I went into medicine. Now, years later, when Dr. Dean Ornish published his landmark lifestyle heart trial proving, with something called quantitative angiography, that indeed heart disease could be reversed in the majority of patients without drugs, without surgery, just a plant-based diet and other healthy lifestyle behaviors, I assumed this was going to be the game changer. I mean, my family had seen it with their own eyes, but here it was, in black and white, published in some of the most prestigious medical journals in the world, yet nothing happened. I said, wait a second, if effectively the cure to our number one killer could get lost down some rabbit hole and ignored, what else might there be in the medical literature that could help my patients but just didn't have a corporate budget driving its promotion? Well, I made it my life's mission to find out. For those of you unfamiliar with my work, every year I read through every issue of every English language nutrition journal in the world, so busy folks like you don't have to. I then compile all the most interesting, most groundbreaking, most practical findings and new videos and articles I upload every day to my nonprofit site, nutritionfacts.org. Everything on the website is free. There's no ads, no corporate sponsorship, strictly non-commercial, not selling anything. Just put it up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother. New videos and articles every day on the latest in evidence-based nutrition. What a concept. So where did Pritikin get his evidence from? Well, a network of missionary hospitals set up throughout sub-Saharan Africa uncovered what may be one of the most important advances in health, according to one of the most preeminent figures in medicine of the last century, Dr. Dennis Burkitt, the fact that many of our major and commonest diseases were universally rare, like heart disease. The African population of Uganda, for example, coronary heart disease almost non-existent. Wait a second. Our number one cause of death, almost non-existent. What were they eating? Well, they were eating lots of vegetables and grains and greens, and their protein almost exclusively from plant sources. And they had the cholesterol levels to prove it. Very similar to what one sees in modern day plant eaters. So wait a second, maybe they were just dying early from something else, never lived long enough to get heart disease. No, here's age-matched heart attack rates, Uganda versus St. Louis. At 632 autopsies in Uganda, only one myocardial infarction. At 632 age and gender-matched autopsies in Missouri, 136 myocardial infarctions. More than 100 times the rate of our leading killer. In fact, they're so blown away, went back, did another 800 autopsies in Uganda, still just that one small healed infarct. I mean, it wasn't even the cause of death. At 1,427 patients, less than 1 in 1,000. Whereas here, heart disease is an epidemic. Here's a list of diseases commonly found here and in places that eat and live like the U.S., but were rare or even non-existent among populations centering their diets around whole plant foods. These are among our most common diseases, like obesity, for example. Hiatal hernia, the most common stomach problem. Varicose veins, hemorrhoids, the two most common venous problems. Colorectal cancer, leading cancer killer. Diverticulosis, the most common disease of the intestines. Appendicitis, number one cause of emergency abdominal surgery. Gallbladder disease, number one cause of non-emergency abdominal surgery. As well as ischemic heart disease, our commonest cause of death here, but a rarity among plant-based populations, which suggests that heart disease may be a choice, like cavities. You know, if you look at the teeth of people who lived 10,000 years before the invention of the toothbrush, pretty much no cavity. Didn't brush a day in their lives, no flossing, yet no cavities. Why? Candy bars hadn't been invented yet. Okay, so why do people continue to get cavities when we know they're preventable through changes in our diet? Well, simple, because the pleasure people derive from dessert may outweigh the cost and discomfort of the dentist here. Look, that's fine. If you're an adult, you think the benefits outweigh the risk for you and your family, go for it. I certainly enjoy the occasional indulgence. I've got a good dental plan. But what if instead of the plaque on our teeth, we're talking about the plaque building up inside of our arteries, another disease that can be prevented through changes in our diet? Okay, now what are the consequences for you and your family? Now we're not talking about scraping tartar anymore. Now we're talking life and death. It's still up to each of us to make our own decisions as to what to eat and how to live, but we should make these choices consciously. We're educating ourselves about the predictable consequences of our actions. Atherosclerosis, hardening of the arteries, is a disease that begins in childhood. By age 10, nearly all kids raised on the standard American diet already have what are called fatty streaks, the first stage of the disease building up inside their arteries. These fatty streaks turn into plaques in our 20s, get worse in our 30s, and then can start killing us off. Our heart, it's called a heart attack, in our brain, the same disease called a stroke. So, look, if there's anyone here this afternoon older than age 10, then the question is not whether or not to eat healthy to prevent heart disease. It's whether you want to reverse the heart disease you already have, whether you know it or not. Is that even possible, though? Researchers took people with heart disease, put them on the kind of diet followed by populations that did not get epidemic heart disease. Their hope was maybe we could slow the disease down, perhaps even stop it. But instead, something miraculous happened. As soon as people stopped eating artery clogging diets, their bodies were able to start dissolving some of that plaque away, opening up arteries without drugs, without surgery, suggesting their bodies wanted to be healthy all along, but were just never given the chance. Let me share, this remarkable improvement in blood flow on the left here to the heart muscle itself was after just 3 weeks eating healthfully. Let me share with you what's been called the best kept secret in all of medicine. The best kept secret in medicine is that sometimes, under the right conditions, the body can sometimes heal itself. If you whack your shin really hard on a coffee table, it can get all red hot, painful, swollen, inflamed, but will heal naturally if you just stand back, let your body work its magic. Okay, but what if you kept whacking your shin in the same place day after day? In fact, 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You'd never heal, right? You'd go to your doctor and be like, oh, my shin hurts. The doctor would be like, no problem, whip out their pad, write your prescription for painkillers, right? You're still whacking your shin 3 times a day. Oh, it still really hurts like heck, but oh, it feels so much better with those pain pills on board. Thank heavens for modern medicine. Just like when people take nitroglycerin for crushing chest pain, tremendous relief, but you're not doing anything to treat the underlying cause of the disease. Our body wants to come back to health if we let it, but if we keep re-damaging ourselves, we may never heal. It's like smoking. One of the most amazing things I learned in all my medical training, actually here in Boston, was that within about 15 years of smoking cessation, stopping smoking, your lung cancer risk approaches that of a lifelong non-smoker. Isn't that amazing? Your lungs can clear out all that tar, and eventually it's almost as if you never started smoking at all. And every morning of our smoking life, that healing process began until, wham, first cigarette of the day. Re-injuring your lungs with every puff, just like we can re-injure our arteries with every bite, when all we had to do all along, the miracle cure, just stand back, get out of the way, stop re-injuring ourselves, and let our body's natural healing processes bring us back towards health. The human body is a self-healing machine. Sure, you can choose moderation and hit yourself with a smaller hammer, but why beat yourself up at all? This is nothing new. American Heart Journal, 1977, cases like Mr. F.W. here, heart disease so bad couldn't even make it to the mailbox. Started eating healthier. A few months later, he was climbing mountains, no pain. Now, there are these fancy new classes of anti-angina drugs on the market now, cost thousands of dollars a year, but at the highest dose, may be able to extend exercise duration as long as 33.5 seconds. Does not look like those choosing the drug route will be climbing mountains anytime soon. See, plant-based diets aren't just safer and cheaper, they can work better because you're treating the actual cause of the disease. Heart disease killer number 1. Cancer is killer number 2 in this country. What happens when you put cancer on a plant-based diet? Well, Dr. Dean Ornish and colleagues showed that the same diet was able to reverse the progression of early-stage prostate cancer, and no wonder. If you take the blood of those eating the standard American diet, drip that blood onto cancer cells growing in a petri dish, you can suppress cancer cell growth a few percent, but you put people on a plant-based diet for a year, though, and their blood can do that. The blood circulating throughout the bodies of those eating plant-based has nearly 8 times the stopping power when it comes to suppressing cancer cell growth. Now, this is for men and prostate cancer. They wanted to repeat the study using women and breast cancer, number 1 cancer killer specific to women. But look, they didn't want to wait a whole year to get the results. Women are dying now, so let's see what a plant-based diet can do after just 2 weeks eating healthy. This is the before cancer cell growth This is against 3 different lines of human breast cancer. Cancer cell growth, powering away at 100%. This is after eating healthy for 2 weeks. This is what's called a photomicrograph, photograph taken under a microscope. What they did is they laid down a confluent layer of cancer, like a carpet of breast cancer, into a petri dish, and they dripped the blood of women eating the standard American diet onto that cancer. And you can see it kind of breaks the cancer up into these kind of cancer continents here. But then you take these same women, put them on a plant-based diet, retest 2 weeks later. So they act as their own controls. Same women, 2 weeks later, after eating healthy, they laid down another carpet of breast cancer, dripped their blood 2 weeks later, and all you're left with is this. Just a few individual cancer cells left, their bodies cleaned up. Before and after. Just 2 weeks eating healthy. Their bloodstream became that much more hostile to cancer. Suppressing cancer cell growth is nice. Getting rid of it is even better. This is what's called apoptosis, programmed cell death. Bodies are able to kind of reprogram cancer cells, forcing them into early retirement. This is what's called tunnel imaging, measuring DNA fragmentation or cell death, where dying cancer cells show up as little white spots. So, for example, here. So even if you're a woman eating a pretty poor diet, you're not totally defenseless, you can kill off a few cancer cells. You take these same women, put them on a plant-based diet for 2 weeks, and their blood can do that. It's like you're an entirely different person inside. The same blood now circulating throughout these women's bodies gain the power to significantly slow down and stop breast cancer cell growth after just 2 weeks eating healthy. What kind of blood do we want in our body? What kind of immune system? Right? Do we want blood that just kind of rolls over when new cancer cells pop up? Or do we want blood circulating to every nook and cranny in our body with the power to slow down and stop it? Now, this dramatic strengthening in cancer defenses was after 2 weeks of a plant-based diet and exercise. Had these women out walking 30 to 60 minutes a day. So wait a second, if you do 2 things, how do you know what role the diet played? So researchers decided to put it to the test. This is what we saw. This is, again, measuring apoptosis, cancer cell clearances, the kind of cancer-stopping power of that we saw before. Plant-based diet and mild exercise, like out walking every day. But plant-based diet on average for 14 years. So 14 years plant-based diet, mild exercise. That's kind of cancer cell clearance you get. Compare that to the cancer-stopping power of your average sedentary American. See a little cheeseburger there. I don't know if you can put kids in. Which is essentially non-existent. Okay, but here's the interesting group in the middle. What about 14 years standard American diet, but 14 years daily, strenuous, hour-long exercise like calisthenics? They wanted to know, if you exercise long enough, if you exercise hard enough, can you rival some strolling plant eaters over here? And the answer is, exercise helped. No question. But literally 5,000 hours in the gym, no match for a plant-based diet. This is that same tunnel imaging we saw before. Even if you are a couch potato, living off of fried potatoes, you're not totally defenseless. You can knock off a few cancer cells. You exercise for 5,000 hours, you can knock off cancer cells left and right, but nothing appears to kick more cancer tush than a plant-based diet. We think this is because animal protein, meat, egg white, and dairy protein, increases the levels of IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1, which is a cancer-promoting growth hormone involved in the acquisition and progression of malignant tumors. But if you start eating plant-based, if you reduce your consumption of animal protein, your levels of IGF-1 drop within weeks, and they continue to drop if you eat healthy over a period of years. And your levels of IGF-1 binding protein go up. IGF-1 binding protein is like our body's emergency brake. It's one of our ways to protect, our body protects itself from cancer, protects itself from excessive growth. Sure, in as few as 2 weeks, you can drop your body's production of IGF-1, but wait a second. What about all the IGF-1 you have circulating in your system from the bacon and eggs you had 3 weeks ago? Well, your liver releases a snatch squad of binding proteins to type in the excess IGF-1, pull it out of the system. Your protective levels go up within weeks. Benefits continue to accrue the longer you eat healthy. Here's an experiment that really nailed IGF-1 is the villain. Same thing we saw before, plant-based diet and exercise. Cancer cell growth drops. Cancer cell death shoots up. But here's the interesting column here. What if you had back to the cancer? Just the amount of IGF-1 you banished from your system because you started eating healthy. What happens? You effectively erase the diet and exercise effect. It's almost as if you never started eating healthy at all. So the reason that one of the largest studies on diet and cancer in history found that the incidence of all cancers combined was lower among those eating more plant-based is because they're eating less animal protein, which means less IGF-1, which means less cancer growth. How much less cancer growth? Well, in this study in which thousands of men and women were followed for 18 years, those that ate a lot of protein during middle age, 75% increased risk of dying prematurely during that time, and fourfold increased risk of dying specifically from cancer. But not all protein, specifically animal protein, which makes sense given the IGF-1 story I just talked about. So the academic institution where this was done sent out a press release with a memorable opening line: "That chicken wing you're eating could be deadly as a cigarette." Explaining that, look, a quadrupling of cancer mortality risk, that's comparable to what one might get smoking cigarettes. So what was the response in the nutrition community to this revelation that diets, high meat, eggs, and dairy could be harmful to the health of smoking? Well, one nutrition scientist said it was potentially dangerous to tell people about this study. Why? Because a smoker might think, hey, why bother quitting smoking? My ham and cheese sandwich is just as bad for him. So let's not tell anyone about this whole meat and dairy thing. This reminds me of this famous Philip Morris cigarette ad that tried to downplay the risk by saying, hey, you think secondhand smoke is bad, increasing the risk of lung cancer 19%. Well, hey, drinking 1 or 2 glasses of milk every day, maybe 3 times as bad, 62% increased risk of lung cancer. Or doubling your risk frequently cooking with oil, or tripling your risk of heart disease by eating non-vegetarian, or multiplying your risk 6-fold if you eat lots of meat and dairy. So, they conclude, let's keep some perspective here. The risks from secondhand smoke may be well below that of other everyday activities, so breathe deep. That's like saying, and don't worry about getting stabbed, because getting shot so much worse. How about neither? 2 risks don't make a right. Of course, you'll note that Philip Morris stopped throwing dairy under the bus once they purchased Kraft Foods. Just saying. All right. So every year the CDC compiles the top 15 leading causes of death in this country. I thought I'd just go through the list 1 through 15, talk about the role diet may play in preventing, arresting, and reversing each of our top 15 killers. Only 13 causes of death to go. Top 3 killers used to be heart disease, cancer, stroke. Oh, that's so 2007. Now it's heart disease, cancer, and COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases like emphysema. Thankfully, a plant-based diet can help prevent COPD, even be used to treat COPD, significantly improving lung function over time. But the tobacco industry had a very different take on this diet. I mean, if adding plants to our diet can improve lung function, wouldn't it be easier to just add plants to cigarettes? And indeed, the addition of acai berries to cigarettes evidently has a protective effect against emphysema in smoking mice. Who would have thunk it? Next, they're going to start adding berries to meat. And indeed, I couldn't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. The addition of fruit extracts to burger patties was not without its glitches. For example, the blackberries dyed the burger patties distinct purplish color. It's kind of turned people off a little bit. Though evidently you can improve the tenderness of lamb carcasses if you infuse them before rigor mortis sets in with kiwi fruit juice. You can even improve the nutritional profile of frankfurters by adding powdered grape seeds, though there were complaints that the grapeseed particles became visible in the final product. And look, if there's one thing we know about hot dog eaters, it's that they're picky about what goes in their food. Oh, pig anus? Okay. But grape seeds, ew! All right, killer number 4 is indeed strokes. Preventing strokes may be all about eating potassium-rich foods, yet most Americans don't even reach the recommended minimum intake of potassium, and by most, I mean more than 98%. More than 98% of Americans eat potassium deficient diet because more than 98% of Americans don't eat enough plants. Potassium comes from the words potash. Take any plant, put it in a pot, reduce it to ash, you're left with potassium, potassium, so-called vegetable alkali. But who can name me one plant food in particular high in potassium? Banana, of course, bananas. It's funny, I speak all around the world, and that's like the one thing everybody knows about nutrition. Like I don't know if Chiquita had a great PR firm or something, but it turns out bananas don't even make the top 50 sources of potassium, coming in at number 86, right after fast food vanilla milkshakes. It goes faster, and then bananas. It's funny, when I was writing the new book, I went back to make sure they hadn't updated the data. This is the USDA nutrient database, and they actually had. Now, currently, bananas don't even make the top 1,000 sources, coming in at number 1,161, right after Reese's Pieces. I kid you not. The most concentrated sources of potassium in our diet: number 1, greens; number 2, beans; and number 3, dates. Again, bananas don't even make the top 1,000. In fact, if you look at the next leading cause of death, bananas could be downright dangerous. Alzheimer's is next. 4 million Americans currently affected. 20 years ago, wasn't even in the top 10. According to the latest dietary guidelines for the prevention of Alzheimer's disease, 2 most important things we can do. Number 1, decrease our intake of meat, dairy, and junk. Increase our intake of vegetables, legumes, or beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils, fruits, and whole grains. This is based in part on data going back decades now that show that people who eat meat, red meat, white meat, doesn't matter, between 2 to 3 times the risk of becoming demented later in life, and the longer one eats healthy, the lower one's risk falls. Killer number 7, type 2 diabetes, a disease we've known we can prevent, arrest, and reverse since the 1930s. Put a group of diabetics on a plant-based diet, and within a period of 5 years, about a quarter of the diabetics were able to get off insulin altogether. But look, plant-based diets tend to be relatively low-calorie diets. So look, maybe their diabetes just got better because they lost so much weight. I mean, to tease that out, what you'd have to do is you take people, put them on a healthy diet, but force them to eat so much food that they don't lose any weight. Then we can see if there's particular benefits to plant-based diets beyond just all the easy weight loss. Well, we'd have to wait a few decades, but here it is. Subjects were weighed every day. They started to lose weight. They were made to eat more food. In fact, so much more food, some of the participants had problems eating it all. They're like, oh, not another salad. Oh. But eventually they adapted, so no weight loss despite restricting meat, eggs, dairy, and junk. Okay, so with 0 weight loss, was a plant-based diet still helpful at all? Well, insulin needs were dropped 60%, and half the diabetics ended off all their insulin altogether. Wow. How many years did that take? No, 16 days. 16 days later. So we're talking diabetics who've had diabetes for as long as 20 years, injecting 20 units of insulin a day, 13 days later on none. Diabetes for 20 years, then off all insulin in less than 2 weeks. Diabetes for 20 years because no one had told them about a plant-based diet. For decades, they were 13 days away. Here's participant number 15. 32 units of insulin on the control diet, and then 18 days later on none. Lower blood sugars on 32 units less insulin. That's the power of plants. Remember, this was with 0 weight loss. His body just worked that much better. What are the side effects? How about cholesterol dropping like a rock to under 150? Again, only about 2 weeks. So, just like asking patients to make modest changes in diet will only net you modest benefits in terms of cholesterol reduction. How modest do you want your diabetes? Asking diabetics to make moderate changes in diet. Kind of everything in moderation is a truer statement than many people realize. Asking diabetics to make moderate changes in diet can leave them with moderate blindness, moderate kidney failure, Moderate amputation, maybe just a few toes or something. Moderation in all things is not necessarily a good thing. Remember that study that purported to show that diets high in meat, eggs, and dairy harmful to health as smoking supposedly suggested that those who eat lots of meat, eggs, and dairy 4 times more likely to die from cancer and diabetes. But if you look at the actual study, you'll see that's simply not true. Those eating lots of animal protein didn't have 4 times the risk of dying from diabetes. They had 73 times the risk of dying from diabetes. Now, those that chose moderation, only eating a moderate amount of animal protein, oh, they just had 23 times the risk of death from diabetes. Killer number 8 is kidney failure, a disease that can be both prevented and treated with a plant-based diet, and no wonder. Kidneys are highly vascular organs. Researchers from a obscure institution called Harvard identified 3 dietary risk factors for declining kidney function. Number 1, animal protein. Number 2, animal fat. Number 3, cholesterol. Animal fat can alter the actual structure of the human kidneys, based on studies like this showing that plugs of fat are literally clogging up the works and autopsied human kidneys. And animal protein can have a profound effect on normal kidney function, inducing something called hyperfiltration, increasing the workload on the kidneys, but not plant protein. So for example, you can do studies where you take people, give them a single meal of tuna fish, and you can see increased pressure within their kidneys in 1, 2, 3 hours after the meal in both non-diabetics and diabetics. So we're talking adverse effects, not like decades down the road, but literally within hours of it going into our mouth. Now, but what if you ate the exact same amount of protein, but instead of having a tuna fish salad sandwich, you had a tofu salad sandwich, right? What would happen? Absolutely nothing. Your bodies can handle plant protein without batting an eyelash. So wait a second, why does the animal protein cause that overload reaction, but not the plant protein? Well, we think it's due to the inflammation triggered by the consumption of animal products. How do we know that? Because you give a powerful anti-inflammatory drug along with that tuna fish, you can abolish that hyperfiltration protein leakage response to meat ingestion. And then there's the acid load. The consumption of foods like meat, eggs, and dairy induce the formation of acids within our kidneys, which can lead to something called tubular toxicity, damage to the delicate urine-making tubes within the kidneys. Animal foods tend to be acid-forming, particularly fish, which is the worst, but then pork, poultry, on down the list. Whereas plant foods tend to either be pretty neutral or actually base-forming, alkaline, particularly dark green leafy vegetables, counteracting some of the acids formed within our kidneys. So the key to halting the progression of chronic kidney failure may lie in the produce aisle or the farmer's market rather than the pharmacy. No wonder then that plant-based diets have been used to treat kidney failure for decades now. This is protein leakage on your standard low sodium diet, which is what us physicians would typically put people on with declining kidney function. Then they switch them to this supplemented vegan diet. Then back to conventional, plant-based. Conventional, plant-based. Switching on and off kidney dysfunction like a light switch based on what was going into their mouth. Killer number 9 is respiratory infections. You say, wait a second, what possible role could our diet play in a respiratory infection like pneumonia? Obviously, Hillary hasn't seen my video, Kale and the Immune System, talking about the immunostimulatory effects of kale. Is there anything kale cannot do? Boosting antibody production 7-fold, but this is in a petri dish. What about in people? Take men and women, older men and women, 50s, 60s, 70s, split them up into 2 groups. Half continue to eat their regular diet. The other half, you just add a few servings of fruits and vegetables right before getting their pneumovax vaccination, their pneumonia vaccination. Significantly boosted protective antibody response in those eating more fruits and vegetables. This is not cutting out meat. Right? This was just adding a few servings of produce to one's diet can significantly boost our immune function. Killer number 10 is suicide. You know, for years, those that eat healthier tend to feel healthier. In fact, only about half of the depression, anxiety, and stress scores compared to those who eat more conventional diets, we think is because of arachidonic acid, this long-chain inflammatory omega-6 fatty acid found in animal products, particularly chicken and eggs, by far the most. Yes, some in beef sausage, etc., but most of it found in chicken and eggs. So if you take people, you remove eggs, remove chicken, remove other meat from the diet, you can get a significant improvement in mood within just 2 weeks. It can take drugs like Prozac months to take an effect. Significant improvement within 2 weeks. Why? Because we think this arachidonic acid stuff is adversely impacting mental health via a cascade of neuroinflammation, brain inflammation. But we may be able to clear this inflammation from our brains in as few as 2 weeks by cutting down our intake of eggs, chicken, and other meat. Now, am I just cherry picking here? I mean, what about all the other studies that have shown different diets improving mood? There aren't any. There's a recent systematic review found that only the plant-based dietary intervention ever shown in a randomized controlled trial to actually improve mood under any time frame. It's hard to cherry pick when there's only one cherry. Works in a workplace setting too. There's a Geico Insurance that went in and added plant-based options at the cafeteria, gave weekly educational sessions, got significant improvements not only in physical functioning, general health, vitality, all the things you'd assume, but also improvements in mental health. And this led to improvement in worker productivity. And so Geico said, aha, spread it across the country, across 10 corporate sites, half of which were control sites where they didn't do anything. The other half, they just added lentil soup, bean burritos, healthy options at the cafeteria, added some weekly educational sessions, got significant improvements, depression, anxiety, fatigue, emotional well-being, daily functioning, as well as emotional health. So, lifestyle interventions like exercise can improve mental as well as physical health, and in terms of diet, plant-based diets have been shown to have the largest evidence base so far. Killer number 11 is systemic blood infections. Now, sure, there's certain foodborne bacteria that can burrow through the intestinal wall, get into your bloodstream, or in women, can crawl up into their bladder. We've known for decades it's actually bacteria crawling up from the rectum that cause bladder infections in women, but we didn't know where this reservoir of bladder-infecting E. coli was coming from until now. We have chicken. We now have DNA fingerprinting proof of a direct link between farm animals, meat, and bladder infections. Solid evidence that urinary tract infections can be what's called a zoonosis, an animal-to-human disease. So wait a second, who undercooks chicken? Can't you just use a meat thermometer, cook the meat through? What's the big deal? The big deal is what's called cross-contamination. You give 40 families frozen chicken to prepare and cook in their home as they normally would, and multitudes of antibiotic-resistant bacteria jump from the chicken into the guts of the volunteers even before they eat it. So you can incinerate that chicken to ash. You don't even have to eat any of it. You're already infected before it makes it into the oven. Within days, chicken bacteria multiply to the point of becoming a major part of the person's gut flora. Chicken bacteria is like taking over, where it could lay in wait to cause infections later on. You say, okay, well, wait a second. What if I use both safe cooking and safe handling guidelines? This is the official recommendation from the USA. We're actually supposed to be spraying a bleach solution all over common kitchen surfaces. So they told people how to do this, instructed people, then came in later, swabbed around the kitchen, and still found significant numbers of Salmonella, Campylobacter, serious human pathogens, on some utensils, dishcloth, counter, sink rim, cupboard, etc. The reason that families have more bacteria from feces in their kitchen sink compared to their toilet seat is because people tend to rinse chickens in the sink, not the toilet. So unless our kitchen is like some biohazard lab, right, the only way we're going to prevent leaving infection around the kitchen is to not bring it into our homes in the first place. Now, the good news is it's not like you eat chicken once and you're colonized for life. In this experiment here, the chicken bacteria only seemed to last for about 10 days before the person's good bacteria could kind of muscle it out of the way. The problem is that many families eat chicken more than once every 10 days, so maybe constantly reintroducing these chicken bugs into their system where they can lay in wait to then crawl up and cause millions of bladder infections every year, some of which can be very serious, even potentially fatal. Wait a second, you can't sell unsafe toys, you can't sell unsafe cars. How is it even legal to sell unsafe meat? Well, they do it by blaming the consumer. Raw meats are not idiot-proof, says one USA poultry microbiologist. Look, they can be mishandled when they're, it's like handling a hand grenade. You pull the pin, someone's going to get hurt. Now, while some may question the wisdom of selling hand grenades in supermarkets, our poultry microbiologists disagree, saying, oh, it's the consumer that has the most responsibility, just refuse to accept it. It's like a car company saying, yeah, we installed faulty brakes, but it's your fault for not putting your kid in a seatbelt, right? Or a phone manufacturer saying, yeah, we produce batteries that explode, but it's your fault for putting it in your pocket, or something like that, I guess. The head of the CDC's Food Poisoning Division famously responded to this blame the victim attitude coming from the meat industry. Is it reasonable, she asked, is it reasonable that if a consumer undercooks a hamburger, their 3-year-old died? Is that reasonable? Not to worry, the meat industry's on it. They just got FDA approval for a bacteria-eating virus to spray on the meat. Now, there's concerns among the industry about consumer acceptance of these so-called bacteriophages. May present somewhat of a challenge to them, so of course they're not going to label it or anything. But if they think that's going to be a challenge, check out their other bright idea. The effect of extracted housefly pupae, and this is a sciencey way of saying they want to smear a maggot mixture on the meat. Now, it's low cost, think about it. Look, maggots thrive off of rotting flesh. However, there have been no reports of maggots having any serious diseases. So, hey, they must be filled with some kind of antibacterial something, right? Have you ever seen a maggot sneeze? I don't think so. So, let's take some maggots, grow them 3 days old, wash them off, towel them out, a little Vitamix action here. Voila! Safer meat. We talked about kidney failure. What about liver failure? We've known for decades now that you can treat liver failure with a plant-based diet, significantly reducing the toxins that otherwise build up in our body, eating meat without a fully functional liver to detoxify your blood. Though one does have to admit there are some people consuming plant-based diets with worsening liver function. They're called alcoholics, living off of potatoes and barley and grapes and strictly plant-based, but not doing so good. We're not sure exactly what. Next on the list, high blood pressure. 78 million Americans affected, 1 in 3 American adults, and as we get older, our pressures get higher and higher, such that by age 60, the majority of us have hypertension. So wait a second, I mean, if most of us get high blood pressure when we age, maybe it's less a disease and more just an inevitable consequence of aging. No, we've known since the 1920s that high blood pressure need not occur. Researchers went to rural Kenya, measured the blood pressures of 1,000 people eating the following diet: corn, beans, vegetables, fruit, greens. Our pressures go up as we age. Their pressures go down. And the lower, the better. We now have evidence even people with so-called normal blood pressure may benefit from blood pressure reduction. If you went to your doctor with 120/80, you'd get a gold star. But now we know that even people under 120/80 would benefit from blood pressure reduction. So the ideal blood pressure, the no benefit from reducing it further blood pressure, 110/70. Is it even possible to get pressures down to 110/70? It's not just possible, it's normal for those eating healthy enough diets. 2 years at this rural Kenyan hospital, 1,800 patients admitted. How many cases of high blood pressure did they find? 0. Wow, they must have low rates of heart disease, right? No, they had no rates of heart disease. Not a single case of arteriosclerosis, our number 1 killer, was found. Rural China, same thing, 110/70. Their entire lives, 70-year-olds, same average blood pressure as 16-year-olds. Now, African diet, Asian diet, vastly different diets. What they shared in common is that they were plant-based day to day, with meat only eaten on special occasions. Now, why do we think it's the plant-based nature of the diet that was so protected? Because in the Western world, according to the American Heart Association, the only population getting it down that low on average were those eating strictly plant-based diets, coming in at about 110 over 65. This is actually right here in Massachusetts. Here's the largest study of plant-based eaters to date. This is the Adventist 2 study looking at 89,000 Californians, comparing non-vegetarians to so-called semi-vegetarians, or flexitarians, those that eat meat more like a once-a-week basis, not a daily basis, compared to those who eat no meat except fish, compared to those who eat no meat period, compared to those who eat no meat, eggs, or dairy. And look, these is an Adventist study, so even the non-vegetarians weren't eating a lot of meat compared to the general population, eating lots of fruits and vegetables, tended not to smoke, tended to exercise. This is a really healthy cohort of meat eaters, but still saw this stepwise drop in high blood pressure rates as one gets more and more plant-based. Same thing with type 2 diabetes, same thing with obesity. So look, sure, you can throw the vast majority of your risk out the window by eating strictly plant-based, but it's not all or nothing. It's not black or white. Any movement we can make along this spectrum towards eating healthier can accrue significant benefits. Experimentally, you can show this with high blood pressure. You take vegetarians, you give them meat, pay them enough to eat it, and their blood pressure would go up. Or you take people who already eat meat, remove meat from their diet, and their blood pressures go down within 7 days. This is after the vast majority had to stop or reduce their blood pressure medications. They had to. I mean, you can't treat the cause. You can't have a normal blood pressure and be on blood pressure pills. You can drop your pressures too low. It can be dangerous, get dizzy. You'll fall over, hurt yourself. So, ironically, the side effects is taking fewer drugs or none at all. Lower pressures on fewer drugs. That's the power of plants. So, does the American Heart Association recommend a no-meat diet? No, they recommend this low-meat diet, so-called DASH diet, one of the few diets actually kind of officially endorsed by the federal government. They said, wait a second, when the DASH diet was being created, were they just not aware of this landmark research done by Harvard's Frank Sachs? No, they were aware. The chair of the design committee that came up with the DASH diet was Frank Sachs. See, the DASH diet was created with the #1 goal of capturing the blood pressure lowering benefits of a plant-based diet, yet contain enough animal products to make it palatable to the general population. They didn't think the public could handle the truth. Now look, you can see what they were thinking. Just like, drugs never work unless you actually take them. Diets never work at all unless you actually eat them. So look, we can't tell everyone to eat strictly plant-based. No one's going to do that. So if we kind of soft pedal the message, come up with some kind of compromise diet, on a population scale, maybe we'll do more good. Okay. Tell that to the 1,000 American families a day that lose a loved one to high blood pressure. Maybe it's time to start telling the American public the truth. Killer number 14 is Parkinson's disease. Does a plant-based diet reduce one's risk of Parkinson's disease? Well, we know that most studies today find a link between dairy consumption and Parkinson's and development of Parkinson's. Why might that be? Well, there are neurotoxic chemicals present in the milk supply. You can find certain types of pesticides found in the brains of autopsy victims with Parkinson's. They're talking about pollutants like tetrahydroisoquinoline, which is what scientists actually use to try to create Parkinson's in primates in a laboratory setting. Found mostly in cheese, actually. And so there's been calls on the dairy industry to pretty please test their products, screen their products for toxins. Good luck with that. Of course, you could always just not drink it, but then what would happen to your bones? That's a marketing ploy. If you look at the actual science, see, the milk does not appear to protect against hip fractures, whether you're drinking it as an adult, whether you're drinking it as a teen, doesn't matter, doesn't work. In fact, it may actually increase bone fracture risk, which could explain why countries with the highest milk consumption actually have the highest hip fracture rates. So Swedish researchers decided to put it to the test. More than 100,000 men and women followed for years, and milk-drinking women had higher rates of what? Higher rates of death. Significantly more heart attacks and strokes, more cancer for each daily glass of milk. Those women unfortunate enough to be drinking 3 glasses of milk a day had nearly twice the risk of dying prematurely within that time. And had more bone and hip fractures too. More milk, more fractures. And milk-drinking men also had higher rates of death. Yet for some reason you don't see milk ads like this. I'm not sure exactly. And finally, aspiration pneumonia, which is caused by swallowing difficulties due to a stroke or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, things we've already talked about. So, here's our top 15 killers, and a plant-based diet can help prevent nearly all of them, can be used to treat more than half of them, and even reverse the course of disease in some of them, including, in some cases, our top 3 killers. Now, look, there are drugs that can help too. There's cholesterol-lowering drugs for the heart. There's insulin injections, various sugar pills for diabetes. Usually it takes a couple different classes of blood pressure medications to force people's blood pressures down. But the same diet does it all. It's not like there's some heart-healthy diet that's somehow different from a brain-healthy diet. No. A kidney-healthy diet is a liver-healthy diet, is a whole-body-healthy diet. One diet to rule them all. And what about drug side effects? I'm not talking about a little rash or something. Prescription drugs kill more than 100,000 Americans every year. Wait a second, 106,000 Americans every year. That means the 6th leading cause of death in the United States is doctors. The 6th leading cause of death is me. Thankfully, I can be prevented with a plant-based diet. This is compared to 15,000 American vegetarians, those that eat meat, about twice the odds of being on aspirin, sleeping pills, tranquilizers, antacids, painkillers, blood pressure medications, laxatives, of course, as well as insulin. So plant-based diets are great for people that don't like taking drugs, for people that don't like paying for drugs, and for people that don't like risking drug side effects. Want to solve the healthcare crisis? I've got a suggestion. There's only one diet that's ever been proven to reverse heart disease in the majority of patients, this plant-based diet. So, anytime anyone tries to sell you on some new diet, do me a favor. Ask them one simple question. Has this diet been proven to reverse heart disease? Number one reason me and all my loved ones will die. If the answer is no, why would you even consider it? If that's all a plant-based diet could do, reverse the number one killer of men and women, shouldn't that kind of be the default diet until proven otherwise? And the fact that it can also be useful in preventing, arresting, reversing other leading killers like type 2 diabetes and hypertension would seem to make the case for plant-based eating simply overwhelming. Most deaths in the United States are preventable and related to nutrition. The number one cause of death in the United States, according to the Global Burden of Disease Study, the largest study of risk factors in human history, funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, number one cause of death, number one cause of disability in the United States, our diet. Now bumping tobacco smoking to number 2, cigarettes now only kill about 500,000 Americans every year, whereas our diet kills hundreds of thousands more. So if most deaths are preventable related to nutrition, then obviously nutrition is the number one thing taught in medical school, right? It's the number one thing your doctor talks to you about at every visit, right? How could there be such a disconnect between the science and the mainstream practice of medicine? Well, to explain that gap, let me close with a thought experiment. Imagine yourself a smoker back in the 1950s. Back in the 1950s, the average per capita cigarette consumption was 4,000 cigarettes a year. Meaning the average person walking around smoked half pack a day, on average. The media was telling you to smoke. Famous athletes agreed. Even Santa Claus wanted you to smoke. Look, you want to keep fit and, stay slender, so you make sure to smoke and eat lots of hot dogs to stay trim and eat lots of sugar to stay slim and trim. A lot better than that apple there. Sheesh, right? Although apples do connote goodness and freshness, reads one internal tobacco industry memo, which brings up many possibilities for youth. They want to make apple-flavored cigarettes for kids. Shameless. For digestive sake, you smoke. No curative powers claimed by Philip Morris, but hey, better be safe than sorry and smoke. Blow in her face and she'll follow you anywhere. No woman ever says no, they're so round, so firm, so fully packed. After all, John Wayne smoked them until he got lung cancer and died. Back then, even the paleo folks were smoking, and so were the doctors. Now, this is not to say that there wasn't controversy within the medical profession. Sure, some doctors smoked Camels, but others preferred Lucky, so there was a little disagreement there. The leader of the U.S. Senate agreed. Who wouldn't want to give their throat a vacation? Not a single case of throat irritation. How could there be when cigarettes are just as pure as the water you drink? Maybe in Flint, Michigan. But don't worry, if you do get irritated, your doctor can write you a prescription for cigarettes. This is in the Journal of the American Medical Association. So when the AMA is saying smoking on balance is good for you, when the American Medical Association is saying that, where could you turn back then if you just wanted the facts? What's the new data advanced by science? Well, she was too tired for fun, and then she smoked a Camel. Babe Ruth spoke of proof positive medical science, that is when he still couldn't speak, before he died of throat cancer. Now, if by some miracle there was a smokingfacts.org website back then that could deliver the science directly, bypassing commercially corruptible institutional filters, you would have become aware of studies like this. There's an inventive study out of California published in 1958 showing that non-smokers 90% less lung cancer than smokers. But look, this wasn't the first. When famed surgeon Michael DeBakey was asked why his studies back in the 30s linking lung cancer and smoking were simply ignored, he had to remind people what it was like back then. We were a smoking society. It was in the movies. It was on airplanes. Medical meetings were one heavy haze of smoke. Smoking was, in a word, normal. So, back to our thought experiment. If you're a smoker in the 50s in the know, what do you do? And with access to the science, you realize the best available balance of evidence suggests your smoking habit not so good for you. So do you change or do you wait? If you wait until your doctor tells you between puffs to quit, you could have cancer by then. If you wait until the powers that be officially recognize it, like the Surgeon General did in the subsequent decade, you could be dead by then. It took more than 7,000 studies and the deaths of countless smokers before the first Surgeon General's report against smoking came out. You'd think maybe after the first 6,000 studies, it could give people a little heads up or something. Powerful industry. Maybe we should have stopped smoking after the 700th study like this. As a smoker in the 50s, on one hand, you had all of society, the government, the medical profession itself telling you to smoke. And on the other hand, all you had was the science. If you've been aware of studies like this, let's fast forward 55 years. There's a new inventive study out of California warning Americans about something else they may be putting in their mouth. Of course, it's not just one study, put all the science together, a recent systematic review, mortality from all causes put together, many of our dread diseases, stroke, heart attack, certain cancers, significantly lower among those eating more plant-based. So, instead of someone going along with America's smoking habits in the 50s, imagine you, someone you know, going along with America's eating habits today. What do you do? With access to the science, you realize the best available balance evidence suggests your eating habits are not so good for you. So do you change or do you wait? If you wait until your doctor tells you to change, it could be too late.